All right, Mallory, let's go to our guest, our esteemed guest of honor. The first guest in the new studio, too. Matt Wilson of Between Two Bears, on Twitter at MattIsBear, a very adorable mascot bearhead as the avatar, who we also, I believe, is also on the graphic, on the phone graphic. Is that avatar, I believe, Mallory?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm a little bit more anxious than I thought I would be, mainly because of the basketball side of things, but on the football side of things, I think I'm the perfect amount of anxious.
I was about to say, so that's going to be my first question is, obviously, I know this is a football show, but there's some news in basketball right now.
The fact we have him on as this broke last night.
So
you sound tired.
For those that do not know, that are uninitiated to the world of basketball, let me take you first to the background of the Hilltop at SMU, because this is where it all started.
It's the domino meme.
It's the domino meme. It's the little domino meme of SMU saying, we're moving to the ACC. We don't want Rob Lanier as our head coach, so we're going to go get Andy Enfield from USC, who are also kind of okay with letting him go. USC says, cool, we're going to go get super Andy Enfield at Arkansas with Eric Musselman. Arkansas then says, who's another big name coach that's kind of on the way out? Oh, John Calipari. By the way, he's friends with Tyson, the literal Tyson meat man, whatever you want to call him.
Tyson Nuggies.
Tyson Nuggies. They throw a bunch of nuggies in the air, it turns into money, and they pay John Calipari. Now Kentucky's looking for a coach, and they're like, hey, let's get Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan's like, I'm in the NBA, I don't want to leave. They're like, let's get Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley's like, I'm probably not going to leave unless you throw me a ton of money. So they're like, well, let's just go to Waco. Let's just go see what Scott Drew is up to. And right now it feels like we're in that critical period of, is it going to happen? Is it not? Matt, what are you feeling right now?
What am I feeling? Oh, boy. I mean, Scott Drew has the opportunity here to choose between immortality, statues, the love of everyone in the alumni base, being the most successful and most loved coach of the entire athletic department history.
Yes.
Or upwards of, I've seen reportedly between $9 and $11 million and being stressed every day for the rest of his coaching life. That's up to him. It's whatever he wants, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm feeling mostly confident he will return. Scott Drew in Kentucky doesn't seem like the best, how do we say, emotional, spiritual fit even.
Right.
But money is money, and Scott Drew could see this as a new, quote, challenge. So between seeing reports that an offer has been made, an offer hasn't been made yet, Dan Hurley's at the top of the list, he's not at the top of the list, nobody really knows anything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I would reckon we figure out today, on Wednesday, what happens, and I hope it happens soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, you see a lot of lists out right now. We see he's their target. Dan Hurley's still their top target, so it feels like now, today, with the next couple of days, is going to be their where we kind of iron all that out. Like you mentioned, Scott Drew, if you ever met Scott Drew, he is a man who, let's just say, without getting into specifics, fits very much at Baylor and kind of what they're about. And so I think we'll see. Obviously, it's going to be a very rocky time there in Waco, unfortunately.
Well, Matt, the good news for you is your football head coaching situation is very stable. So much so you kept Dave Aranda, who said he had to bring another former head coach, and then also switch back to defensive coordinator, essentially. What do you think of that arrangement coming up for next year?
I think it's probably what needed to happen. I was tentative to be the most optimistic about bringing in a first-time defensive coordinator. And we kind of saw the results of that, right? With College. Now College has moved to more of an assisting role, and Aranda apparently has been more hands-on, even more in spring practices, and apparently that's going quite well. Still some personnel questions up front for me, but it feels like what needed to happen. If you were going to bring in massive quotes, this defensive mastermind, and who has been successful in the past in a hands-on role, that's probably where he should be, right?
Yeah, no, I feel like, they're basically taking the other responsibilities and saying, hey, here's an offensive guy who's been the head coach before who can handle a lot of that, and saying, Dave, focus on more of the things that made you great and led you to helping us win a Big 12 title, and then Jake will worry about the other things.
Go into the film room and work your black magic on this defense.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Because the defense has not been good when it's just been Matt Powledge more or less in the room by himself. So go in there and help. Okay, so I do have a question about, I know you're not too in the weeds as we are recruiting, but Baylor's hit the ground pretty well in a way that Dave Aranda has not done in his brief tenure, especially, of course, without Joey McGuire and a lot of those guys that went to Tech. That kind of infrastructure left, and Baylor was, I don't want to say floundering is the wrong word, but they didn't hit the portal as hard as they probably should have. The on-the-ground high school recruiting kind of lost some momentum. But now, class 2025, Keenan Hall, a guy like Jake Spavital coming in with his scheme. What have you seen? Does that provide excitement and kind of optimism in a space where Dave Aranda was kind of showing his weakness a little bit?
I think what this team needed, this team had the enough zen, enough intellectual approach to the game, which is absolutely necessary. You get that from Aranda. You got that from Jeff Grimes. We're going to break this down as a conceptual exercise and do football in this particular way. We needed some Ricky Bobby, some just time to go fast, right?
Yeah.
Gotta go fast. And I think we brought in the right guy to do that.
Yeah.
It's bad, it's all. So you look at a Michael Trigg, and you look at what Keytron Jackson has done in spring, and it's been encouraging. And apparently my 2-year-old is very excited about this.
I was about to say your 2-year-old loves
what exactly.
everybody's doing there.
So you look at some of the reports coming out of spring practices, and the speed is working. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah. You look at some of the personnel, and it just seems to fit better. A lot of the big recruits have been receivers.
Sure.
And they never really got a chance to show that off.
Yeah.
So I think in this offense, you'll start to see more of that. You bring in Ashton Hawkins, you have Michael Trigg. Things could get interesting on the offensive side, for sure.
Matt, we've talked about it on this show today, but spring football is Kool-Aid season. So who's someone on Baylor through spring practice you're just sipping the Kool-Aid for? You think they have a breakout year coming up?
I mean, I've mentioned his name, Michael Trigg, mainly because he has the support of Plies for some reason. I don't know how those two are connected, but the rapper Plies is really big on Michael Trigg.
Okay.
Don't ask me why.
Plies
if anybody has connections to Plies, please get him on Between Two Bears. We need it to happen.
We will try to hook you up with Plies. I'll say that much. I didn't know that was a connection that Michael Trigg had.
and I still don't know how, but it's there.
Okay.
So,
okay. I like that.
I think breakout. I mean, Keytron Jackson is you saw it a little bit.
Yeah.
Last year, right? Is there somebody that can deliver him the ball in his massive catch radius more than once every other game?
Okay.
That's what I would like to see personally. And if you look at the quarterback quote competition right now, Sawyer Robertson has apparently played very, very well this spring. They're not asking Daquan Finn to run a lot, but we know that he can do that.
Yeah.
It really depends on which quarterback they go with, I think. But I look for this wide receiver room to pop as a whole.
Yeah. All right. Last question from me before we let you go. Obviously, as Carter mentioned, it's a very stable coaching situation there, right? There's no issues at all with Dave Aranda's job security at all.
Oh, boy.
But what does this season have to look like? Is it 8 wins in this new Big 12, 7? What does it have to be for everybody to roll into 2025?
For it to be more stable.
For it to be more stable and
it's
more
stable,
secure.
but even stabler.
Yeah, we need more stable. For everybody to roll in with hands in hands skipping as they go into 2025.
Hands in hands skipping has to be in contention for a spot in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
Late into the season.
Sure. Okay.
More stable, a bowl game and a bowl win would go a long way towards that. But I think comfortably in a bowl and a bowl win is where everybody feels good.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not everybody, but most people feel good. Hey, we're back to being relevant. We're back to being successful. This was a successful season. I don't think a 6-6 does that, even with a bowl win. On top of it, I think a 7-win season plus a bowl win, 8 is, I think, like you mentioned, 8 is about where I think most people start to feel good again.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's about the range, in my opinion. All right, Matt Wilson, I'm going to let you leave and tend to that very excited 2-year-old.
Oh, boy.
and continue to pray around your shrine of Scott Drew that he indeed does stay this whole time. Go ahead. Okay, if you're listening to this, if you have not listened to Between Two Bears with him, Evan, and producer D, do so. It is fantastic. Awesome. I was on their giant tournament show, which was just stupid, crazy fun, which I loved. It was a 2-hour, way too long of an episode over college basketball, but I did not care. I was having a blast. They do a great job with the ROF network and continue to. Oh, they have a Patreon as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? You guys have a Patreon?
We do, yeah. Gonna take this off season, look to do some cool stuff with historical games or maybe some video game streaming and a lot of weird stuff that is right up our alley. And hey, yeah, that bracket show was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was way too long, but hey, at least we got most of our picks wrong.
we also got most of our picks wrong, so that is also a benefit of listening to the show.
Hey, think about it.
You will have fun. You will have fun. You will not necessarily be entertained, or you'll not necessarily be educated. You will be entertained, I should say. So there you go. But Between Two Bears, Matt is Bear on Twitter. Matt Wilson, thank you. Appreciate you, buddy. And we'll talk to you soon. And I will send you a big congratulatory text when Scott Drew announces a lifetime contract at Baylor.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
Stick 'em
Matt.
Bears.